Hello everybody. It is Tuesday the 15th of April. Right, I want to think as far as I can, as far as I can understand. And I can only understand the basics, but the basics might be a good starting point, before you get too much into details and get lost in those details. I think many do, they're lost in details. So I want to think about, again, what we are, what this world is, and I want to talk about interdimensional beings and how this might work. So I'm staying with the basics as far as I can go. But really, you need to have the outside, you need to have the structure. It's like doing a painting. You do the outlines first before you fill in the details. Yeah, I leave the filling in of the details to somebody else. So just want to draw the picture, so to speak. Right. So what is this world? What are we in this world? Where did we come from? That's another good question. Where did we come from? So the world is according to its fruit. You can see it, you can know it by its fruit. And to me again, what I'm seeing, I can only speak from my perspective, what I'm seeing, I'm given of my knowledge. Yeah, somebody else looking from a different angle might see something different, but this is what I'm seeing. I see this world as the desire that all shall have life, or are able to experience life, which is experiencing themselves in matter. Yeah? So that is the overall desire. And as I said, there are, if you say everything is consciousness, there are many levels of consciousness, many different forms of consciousness, which you will then see as mineral, vegetative, animal, man. Levels of consciousness, forms of consciousness. And there are many. This world is so diverse, it's unreal. Diversity of life means diversity of consciousness that created that life in the first place. So that is the intention of this world. And there are laws. I mean, there are absolutely laws that creates order in this thing. Yeah? What you can and cannot do. Again, to be according to the overall intention that all shall have life. I mean, again, everything can stay its individual self. Everything receives according to its individual self. But everything must also give. And everything must fit in with everything else. There is a restriction. There is a freedom where you can be yourself. But there's also a restriction as how far you can take that. Be yourself. When it becomes destructive to others, there are the limits beyond which you cannot go. And no, this world will not allow you to go. You will die. The wages of sin is death. The wages of the outcome for missing the mark. The mark is being within the will of this world. So the outcome that, the consequences for missing the mark is death. And that is just how it works. Now this world is long suffering. Apparently you can return. Try again. Take another bite of the apple. Better luck next time. But to me, this is basically it. We are coming here to have an experience. What we should experience here is the diversity of life and how to fit into the diversity of life. That is what this world is trying to teach us. To not be destructive. When we grow up, yeah? That we are a being that can live in the diversity with other together with other consciousnesses without being destructive. Now, the question of where did we come from, to me, is actually irrelevant. Yeah? We're looking at the wrong thing. The question should really be, what are you whilst you're here? What should you be whilst you are here? That is what we should concentrate on, the here and now. Because when we came, we may not have been according to this world, but the world said, your sins are forgiven thee. Here's your chance to change yourself through the experience, to become something else. Learn, change yourself. But I also think there's a minimum entry requirement, so to speak, to even make it into this. Yeah? So what do we come? What are we before we come? Maybe a desire. We are a desire. Something we want to experience. And I think there's a minimum entry requirement that your desire would even fit in with what, this world is. Your desire has to fit in with the desire of the world in some way. And if your desire is a complete opposite of this world, cannot be integrated into the desire of the world, you won't even get in. I think there are those that cannot get in. They're trying very hard, but they cannot get in because they are not compatible with this world. And then we talk energy and vibration. The thought, the emotions, the desire, the energy that you are out of those things must be compatible with the energy of this world, with the thoughts, the knowledge of good and bad, and the desire of this world. Yeah, you need to be in some way compatible to even enter in the first place. And when you come, you're probably not perfect. I said you may have been something not so good before, but if you have the desire, or you have a desire that is compatible with this world, you will be let in. Of course, this world will cut your desire down to size. Yeah, if you come here saying, oh, my desire is all, I will have it all. Again, in order to fit in with everything else, there needs to be a restriction in your own desire. And that is, again, something this world will teach you. And if you don't learn that, you're missing that mark, you will die. As I said, better luck next time. So, this is, and whilst we are here, we should really not concentrate on what we were before. Before we may well have been, we may have had desire and we have thought, well, I'm all there ever was and ever will be. Yeah? That may well have been what we were before we came here. This world will teach you that that is not the way. It is not the way to life. It is not the way to sustaining life. Life is being sustained in the web of life, and then you have to learn to fit in. And you cannot be all there ever was and ever will be. You will have to, and I think to many this might come as a shock. When they come here and find out they are not the only thing that ever existed. Hell, there are others. What the hell? But as I said, I think there are those that cannot enter in because their energy is so different from this world. They are not compatible. And the will to have dominion. And here goes, the God of the Bible, the rulers. The idea that the few should have complete dominion over the many. And everything is there for them. And here it is there for me. My desire. I am all there ever is and ever will be, and my will must be done. Yeah? That is not compatible with this world. Now, I've been thinking about this whole ancient alien thing and about the Bible and the big difference, the big shift between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Because I really believe that there are beings, now if there are beings like true human beings, something that had grown out of this world from the beginning and was according to this world from the beginning, yeah? But that was then tweaked by God of the Bible. Let's create man in our image to make him like us. We are shifting. Our energy is shifting. We're beginning to think, feel, and have the desire of the gods that are not of this world. Yeah? But let's say in the beginning, because they came here. So how did they get in? If my theory is right, that you need to be energetically, you need to have a desire to that would even let you into this world. So how did they get in the first place? With their technology and with everything else they obviously had at that time. And I'm thinking about what Paul Wallace is saying, and to a degree he's right. They came when the earth was in turmoil. Something had happened. Yeah? Something has happened and we needed, life on earth needed help. Yeah? And there might be the story of them coming and terraforming and restarting life, so to speak. In which case, yes, their desire, it was the desire to help. Yeah? Life. In which case, yes, that would have let them in. They could have entered into this reality. But I think, again, they changed over time. Where the desire to help, and they were more advanced species, but where the desire to help maybe and to exist here amongst others, experience again the life in this world, changed in them to we are the rulers. We are the advanced beings. We are the ones that should take control and rule over this. I think the shift occurred in them over time. They saw themselves differently over time. I mean, they were in this world, and again, I'm reading Morobellino at the moment, and I've heard it from others as well. Although they lived for a very long time, they are not immortal. They're not eternal beings. They will die eventually. And here comes the problem, and that is if the experience has made them energetically into that thought and that desire to rule over everything, in the thought that they are elevated, in the thought that, my will must be done. Once they die, and let's say their spirit, their soul, is outside of this world, and it is that. It is the ruler, energetically. It is the ruler. They cannot return. Once they have left this world, they cannot return. They were something that was they had become something that was incompatible with this world whilst they were here. They died. They got their wages. And they cannot return now, I think is the problem. Unless they change themselves. And apparently they have no intention of doing that. Yeah? God is unchanging. We are unchanging. We are the truth. We are the truth. The light and whatever. I don't think they can return. And here comes a big shift into the New Testament, because as we experience them, I would say as a material reality in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, God is spirit. And God is known on the spirit. Not known as a solid reality, but as a experience that is created through a psychic an energetic connection, channeling. Because they are no longer of this world. And technology will not work at that point, I think. Well, I don't know, maybe it does. I'll come to that in the end. Maybe it does. But in the first instance, now in the New Testament, God is spirit. No longer an experienced reality. They are no longer of this world. But they're still trying to come back. And they haven't changed. I am that I am. That's, I've become what I've become. And I will create what I create. That is what they are now. So, and here comes, because in the New Testament, and at the end of the New Testament, in the book of the Revelation, they will return into this reality. And I said before, they are going to be solid when they come here. And you will have a solid experience when they come here. So how do they enter in? That is the question. How do they enter in? Not through what would be the natural way. Being born, that is, you have to be the correct desire to even enter into this world. That would be the natural world. But the powers of heaven will be shaken. The powers of this world will be shaken. That they can enter in, and then, our hearts will fail us for fear when we see what is coming, because that should not have been allowed to come in. So how does it? Now Jesus said he was the door through which all could enter in. Yeah, that is not the door through which we go to heaven. That is the door through which heaven comes to earth. He is going to bring the kingdom to earth. Yeah, make very clear that was the intention, not us going somewhere. They're coming here. That Blinkenborg cube is coming to earth, and it will sit in Jerusalem. And I actually don't see anywhere where it's taken off again. Yeah, it will be our God forever. So that is the intention. And the powers of heaven will be shaken. Now, first of all, Jesus was the door through which everything could enter in, where he could have a connection to something that was very different from this world and should have been very different from himself, because he was a human being at the time according to this world. Right, so how did he open that door? By subduing his own nature, by denying himself, by denying his own knowledge of good and bad, by throwing Satan out of his heaven, so to speak. Don't fear, don't suppress all of that. Yeah? Don't think, speak, or do according to a human being. Forget it. Just become an empty vessel. Then that knowledge can enter in, that connection can be made. And I think there are those in this world that are the servants to those beings out there, to those interdimensional beings that cannot enter into this world. At the moment, I think that's where we're at. They are in connection with them, and quite possibly not through technology. And at the moment the will of the gods is being done through their servants in this world. But again, in the book of the Revelations, they are going to come as a solid reality. How are they getting in? The powers of heaven will be shaken. How will the powers of heaven be shaken? Because we have found a way. And again, that way might well be technology, a technological portal. We humans, in cahoots with the gods, will have found a way to breach, to bring in something that should not be here, that naturally would not be here, that the powers of this world would keep out. But man, in his delusion, I would say, will have found a way to open that portal. And then look at their intention. Their intention is to rule over this world, and their angels will come to reap to harvest this world. Yeah? And we have thousands of Christians and Muslims and Jews on their knees or flat on their faces asking for that to happen. Maybe with the intent, maybe with the thought that those that will come will help us again as they did in the beginning. Maybe. But that is not what the book of the Revelation says is coming. That is not what is coming. We are opening a door to a very low level consciousness. And again, we will suffer the consequences of our actions when we do that. So, yes, where did we come from? I don't think it matters. What matters is what we are now, what we are in, to see the truth of this, and then really to see, is it worth preserving? And the only way we can preserve it, I think it is worth preserving. It's not perfect, but I think it's an awful lot better than the other. And the only way we preserve it is by being according to it, to be the energy of this world. We are the energy of this world. We will strengthen the world as a whole. We will become part of the shield that will not let evil in. But if we become like evil, we become the door. And as I said, in the end, we might find a way, in our delusion, to let them in completely. So I think we should be human and we should preserve this world. Our energy should stand up for this world, and the only way it can is to be in this world and a part of this world, and not to become the door for something else. If we are no longer the door for something else, they cannot come. If we then deal, now before they come, we don't actually have to deal with extraterrestrial beings or whatever, the powerful ones. We don't actually have to deal with them. All we have to deal with is other human beings that are working for them. Yeah, and we can deal with another human being. No problem. By the time they actually come through the portal, we might have a problem. But at the moment, I think we're still at the point where we only have to deal with other human beings, with their servants. We can deal with them. And then we become again in this world, according to this world, the energy, strengthen the energy of this world. And then they cannot touch us. They cannot enter in. I don't think they can. Anyway, here. This is the broad brushstrokes of what I think is going on. I leave it to the scientists to fill in the blanks, the details. But I think this is what is happening. And we really must start doing the correct thing that will save us, that will actually save us. And that is to be according to this world. Anyway, here, I leave it at that for today. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.